faceoff. Shoots it, deflected right in. Pietrangelo save rebound. Stastny stopped by Pietrangelo. I don't believe that save. Neither does Peter Stastny. He can't believe the save that Pietrangelo just made on him as Frankie sparkling on that maneuver there to stop and rob Peter Stastny. He should get 5 to 10 for that.
Hello and welcome to episode 50 of Tendy Talk, presented by the BLPA and Hockey Podcast Networks. I am your host Joe, better known as Washed Up Goalie on social media. This week I chat with beer league goalie and U.S. Army veteran Ian Humphrey. We chat about goaltending, his love of the Joker, and how recent events may have triggered active and retired members of our armed forces, and why you should check on those vets you know. So, without further ado, let's get to our conversation with Ian. Here, Ian, thanks for joining me. Good to have you on the podcast. We've been following each other on Instagram for quite a while and message back and forth, so it's good to actually kind of talk face to face.
Oh yeah, for sure. You always have some interesting posts and the podcast pretty decent, I suppose.
Yes. So I know a little bit of your story. You know, you're originally from California, then you moved to Iowa as a young kid, and that's when you started playing hockey. What got you into hockey? What kind of was that? I need to try this out for you.
I was kind of playing soccer, just as a kid. I love running around and stuff like that. But hockey kind of got my attention when pretty much like Kelly Rudy started doing the things that he did. Especially in LA there. Me being from LA, the LA area, I kind of drew a liking straight to him. So, him and a little bit of Eddie.
Who couldn't like Eddie Belfour in those years, and just his style? It was unreal.
Oh yeah, especially the early '90s and mid '90s goalies. They always had Hasek. I mean, there's so many goalies that all had their own personalities to their age.
Yeah, I forget who I was talking to, but I said, goalies in the 90s, you could just see their silhouette and know who they were, very much like a baseball player in their batting stance, where today it's not as easy. You can see a silhouette of a stance, and 1 out of 10, you're going to get it.
Yeah, you'd be lucky to get it. You're exactly right. 1 out of 10. But yeah, definitely the 90s, that glove position and how close their legs were, along with the stick positioning, you could pretty much tell, especially when it came to Rudy. Belfour was a little bit more spread out, I feel like.
Yeah, he was spread out. We used to have the joke in Chicago, Eddie walked out of Chicago Stadium right in front of a CTA bus, but don't worry, it went right between his legs because his 5-hole was so big. But that was also part of his strategy, give him the big 5-hole and then quick take it away. But you're right, like Kelly Rudy had the old school legs together. Richter was kind of a hybrid where they were together in certain situations and he spread them. But even the glove position, Potvin had that goofy little, had it facing towards him until the shooter was ready. Then he'd quick snag it. And,
that got me in a lot of.
Yeah, it was always funny. You could tell the kids who were Potvin fans when you went out on the ice because they had that glove turned around and they just weren't as quick as him. So they tended to get a lot of pucks to the back of the hand.
Yep. I still find myself resorting back to that bad habit, as they say nowadays.
Yeah, I was a very late adapter to, even holding the glove up, this way, the way you see most kids today. For those long shots, and it makes complete sense. But, for the longest time, it's like, no, you hold it out like this, and then you just go this way. It's like, no, there's actually good reasoning for it. But I think Hasek was the first one I started holding the glove that way. But.
Now that you mention it, I think you're right. Kind of presenting it nice and big to the shooter and taking up all that area.
Yeah, he was the first one I remember seeing, and it's not like it caught on because he wasn't quite retired yet, but he was doing it for many, many years before I noticed any other goalies trying to do that. And you really didn't see many of the pro goalies, in my opinion, doing it as much as you saw youth goalies and youth goalie coaches teaching that. So yeah, that was an interesting one. So what actually made you want to be a goalie? So yeah, you're playing soccer and you see hockey. You're like, let me try this. What made you want to put the pads on and uh, try that out?
Um, yeah, sorry, I had ambulance and whatnot going down by my road. I might have to take you in the basement here. um, the no, I mean, I started out, skating out, playing right wing, which I still kind of do when I skate out. If I don't play defense, but no, it was definitely, as you mentioned him before, Felix Potvin. Once I saw him, the way that he was playing, I was kind of like, you know, with that kind of style and that kind of look, I kind of want to be a goalie.
Yeah,
Just
absolutely.
do everything that you can to stop the puck from getting past you. It's like self-sacrifice. It's almost kind of like a mental attitude, which I think kind of has a little bit of what I went into when I became an adult. I'm sure we'll
Mhm.
get to that point here in a little bit.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, we will. It's funny you talk about that self-sacrifice because I was talking to Bonesy earlier this week, and now he's got that great vintage set. He's like, goalies back then, you felt that, and it's like, yeah, we did. It's funny because I was talking to him about that equipment, and he only uses it for controlled skates, not full-on games where he could. I was like, you got to do it at least once and see what nuts we really were back then.
Yeah, for sure. Um, I mean, yeah, like back then when I started playing in net. Sorry, I'm actually gonna make it my way back down into the basement. Give me a little bit better connection here.
No
Um,
problem.
the no, when I first started playing, I was using. I think I just saw pictures kind of floating around on the gram recently of the old Coho street hockey pads that were red, white, and blue.
Yep.
Those are the those are the exact same pads that I had. That was my first set. That's when I played ice hockey. No joke.
I remember my first association supplied chest protector was one of those two-piece chest protectors that was nothing more than a piece of fabric, between you and the puck. And it's like, and then you see what kids today have, and it's like, oh boy, what life would have been like back then. All the bruises I wouldn't have had.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. Those, yeah. I mean, I have a 1X now. I just upgraded from a Vaughn V6. Um, and yeah, I mean, when you look at something like that, and you just kind of look at it with that old school kind of mentality that we have, it's kind of like, this is gonna protect me. I don't understand. But then when you start taking shots to it, then it's like, oh, wait a minute, there's some pretty decent plastics and foams in here.
Well, and I think the older equipment, as Bonesy and I were talking about, the older equipment required us to play different. That's why our styles were different. It was maybe a little more athletic than the predominantly blocking style you see today. And good or bad, I kind of like that older athletic style because of it. But at the same time, it's like, why the heck were we turning our skate over and exposing the whole backside of our leg that had nothing to it for skate saves? It's like, what were
Yep.
we thinking? Who was the moron to do that the first time and go, you know what, this is a good idea. We should teach kids how to do this.
Yeah, yeah. With no knee landing, no protection on the inner calf, there's nothing there. Like you couldn't when you butterflied, you had to be sure that you were gonna not regret it.
Yeah. Well, and that's like young goalies today don't have the knee problems us older goalies have. It's like we have knee problems not because of the puck, is because going down onto the ice into the butterfly with nothing there except for a leather strap.
Yep, yep. And now, of course, now they're starting to, us older guys are all about the knee protection. So we're like, what's the best knee protection I can get? I need all the protection I can get. I need more cushioning. I need,
Yeah. Well,
every little piece of it.
like I'm still wearing my old Vons that I bought in the 1900s, and never wore knee pads underneath them. I still don't. And it's like now you got guys wearing, modern equipment and they got these giant knee pads underneath. And I'm going, if you're getting hit in the knee with those pads, you're not playing properly. So like I'm waiting on my new pads, and I don't foresee me getting any extra knee protection because what I'm getting in the new ones is light years ahead of what I have now.
Yeah, yeah, no joke there. I had an old set from probably like when I first started getting back into playing, um, which was probably, gosh, what's it, 7, 8 years ago now. Um, had an old set of net zeros, Brian's net zeros,
Yeah.
and the knee stack is completely different than what I've got now, which is the genetic threes.
Yeah.
And it took such, like, I'm still trying to adapt to how thick that knee stack is, and there's even times where it's just the rotation's completely different, so I have to constantly play with the strapping.
My current knee stack is like the original chest protector I had. It's just some fabric with a little bit of, stuffing in there. Cause I mean, when I was growing up, when the calf wrap came out, we're like, this is amazing. Look at all this extra protection we have. It did nothing. It just gave you a little extra protection from escape blade, but that's what I'm still using today. And so it's like, I I can't wait for those knee blocks. The first time I make a butterfly in them, I'm like, man, it's like falling down onto a cloud. Um,
Right?
so, getting back on track, you played some youth hockey, but you didn't play super long. Why did you stop playing at that young age?
It had to do with me kind of growing up in a low, I wouldn't necessarily say low income, um,
Hmm.
but I would say probably like a lower middle class
Yeah.
family. And back in our day, I don't know if they still do it. I've got kids of my own, so I'm sure I'll realize it one day. But back then, we had to sell like raffle tickets,
Yep.
just to kind of, pay our way or pay our year, or whatever it may be. And it came down to I was not motivated to sell those raffle tickets. um, and it was either I had to sell all my gear to play or not play. And I
Hmm.
said, I'm not selling any of my gear, so there's no way that's going to happen.
Yeah.
So I unfortunately I had to just stop playing, and I kind of changed sports. I went more towards basketball and baseball.
Hmm. And I think that's one of the biggest issues hockey has is it's I wouldn't even say it's a working person sport anymore. It's not cheap. Ice time keeps getting more expensive and the equipment keeps getting more expensive. When we were young, you could get a stick for $50, and that was one of the nicer sticks. I mean, when the Gretzky aluminum stick came out and that was $100, we're like, oh my God, how can they charge so much? Now the cheapest stick is $150, and it's not going to last you very long. So the cost to play is definitely an issue. Um, when my kids were really young, that's probably why we didn't get them into it. And now it's the time commitment. Here in Minnesota, it's a 8 day a week time commitment
Oh
when you
yeah.
think about it. So um, yeah, I totally get that. So you take this long hiatus from playing. I'm gonna guess you still, played street hockey and all that good stuff and still had that passion for the sport, but you're down in Fort Bragg in the military and you start playing again. What brought you back to the ice?
Um. So yeah, that's a loaded question. No, I mean there was a while there, and I'd been in the army for a few years, um, previous to that. But it was in Hawaii, and they do have an ice rink there, on Oahu. But I wasn't really. I was more interested in watching hockey than I was playing.
Hmm.
Mostly because the Kings were, again, a playoff team. So I was
Hmm.
like, I'm like, anything that I don't have to give up, I already have my service, and I'm just watching hockey. These guys are going to win the cup one of these days.
Yep.
Sure enough, no joke, it happened. And it got me, it kind of brought that fire back into me, that
Yeah.
hockey to have that effect on everybody that has fallen in love with the sport.
Well, and watching a guy like Jonathan Quick too, it's like, well, that looks a lot like a lot of fun.
And he reminds me so much of Potvin in different ways. It's almost like he's an evolution of Potvin.
Yep.
Kind of the way I look at it. But yeah, I mean, getting back on the topic before I get too sidetracked. I had there's a poster up in the PX, which is kind of like a mall or like a Walmart, so to speak. It's on post. Out at Bragg, and it said, Fort Bragg Misfits. Speaking of which, I got that bad boy right there.
Nice.
The jersey that we had right there.
Sweet.
So, but I saw that, and it got me in the roller. And then the guys, a couple of the guys that were playing roller were playing ice, and they said, "Hey, why don't you come play ice? We don't have enough goalies." I said, "Well, I'm gonna have to get some ice skates in that case." So I went and got them and started playing ice
again. And you haven't turned back?
Nope, never will.
Nope.
Not until I get too old.
Right. That's kind of how I feel. Here in Minnesota, we had the fellow Mr. Surdich, who was up in Duluth, and he was in his 90s and played hockey till the day he died. And it's like, I want to be that guy. Will I be in the net till I'm 90? Probably not. I think maybe, as long as the knees hold out, 60, I'll maybe transition out and start playing forward. But, that gives me 20 more years between the pipes. So
yeah, those knee surgeries will be out for about a year in between.
Yeah, knock on wood, I haven't had one yet. I did sprain my MCL 2 years ago, but it was just a sprain, and Russ healed it back up. That and some, good exercises, physical therapy that helped. That's for sure. So you're playing down at Fort Bragg. You're now in Wisconsin, I believe, right? You're kind of near that Illinois-Wisconsin border.
Yep.
You're on the wrong side of it, in my opinion, having grown up in Illinois, which that's a funny story. My high school coach, freshman, sophomore year, he's from the Milwaukee area, and he's down getting his doctorate in psychology at the time, and he's coaching us, and we were being little jerks at practice, and I hear him just kind of under his breath go, something about all these fibs, and I just kind of stop and go, "Hey, I know what that means." He goes, "What does it mean?" And it's like, "Effing Illinois bastards." And he goes, "Oh shit, I can't use that one around you guys anymore." So yeah, but somehow, even though he grew up in Milwaukee, he is still a Bears fan, still, and a Hawks fan. But he's stuck with the Brewers instead of the Cubs. So he's not fully enlightened.
I mean, it could be worse. You could definitely be a Cubs fan. So.
Well, I am. I love the Cubs.
Oh, I meant him. He could have been a Cubs fan.
That would have made him actually a pretty good guy.
To each other.
Yeah. So you're in Wisconsin playing men's league. Anybody that's followed your account for any time has noticed you're quite a fan of the Joker, to the point that he's kind of taking over your equipment. Where does that, and your hair, which I'm going to say this, whenever I see people with green hair, and I'm seeing a lot more of it lately, I don't know why, but I always remember back to, I went to Catholic school virtually my whole life. Because growing up in the city of Chicago, if you don't go private school, you're not getting an education. So mom and dad were like, guess we're going to work extra jobs. And I remember one of the teachers going, every time I see somebody with green hair, I always wonder how they got it. And then I think, maybe did they just go right back with it? So it's like, whenever I see that, I'm like, oh God, no, I can't think of that anymore. But where does this love of the Joker come in? I think I've got some theories, but I'm going to let you tell the story.
All right. So, well, growing up, we had Batman the animated series.
Yes.
One of the best cartoons easily of all time.
Mm-hmm.
Alongside of Darkwing Duck and DuckTales.
Yes. My kids have watched some DuckTales and they love it. It's funny because all you have to say is DuckTales around either one of them and they'll automatically go, woohoo.
Yep. But no, the one thing I realized as my mom's favorite color was purple.
Mm-hmm.
And as we know, the Joker and purple go, hand in hand.
Yeah.
And then saw this quote a long time ago, which was something along the lines of, idolizing Batman is being a kid, but being an adult is realizing that the Joker is more right or more fun.
Mm-hmm.
Something along those lines. And it kind of, I read it and I was kind of like, okay, cool, whatever. And then I just recently saw it again, maybe about 2 years ago, before, my own issues started. And something just kind of clicked when I read that. And I was kind of like, you know what you never really see is a lot of purple when it comes to goalie gear.
Mm-hmm.
Like Potvin had the purple, black, white, and a little bit of silver, but that was back in the day. And then nowadays, the Kings kind of hopped on board with me, and they started doing the reverse retros, and there's a lot more purple in them. So I must be onto something, right? But no, the Joker thing just kind of clicked with me, and just kind of it felt right to the point where I just, I didn't have the money to pay necessarily for a professional paint job on my mask, or to, do these certain things that I really wanted to do. And I started with the cowlings. The cowlings, I tried to dye them like a deep blood red. Didn't work out, which was fine with me. And I kind of looked at them and I went, you know what? Screw it. I'll go full Joker theme because these look pretty sick as far as like color. Finally my air conditioning turned off. I don't know why it's on. It's 73 degrees outside. I have no idea why my air conditioning's on.
Yeah, we got the windows wide open here too. It's just beautiful.
But yeah, no, I love that deep kind of purplish. I'm looking at them right now. Like I'm looking at my entire kit. It's just on the other side of my desk. And I just kind of fell in love with them, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do the Punchline, because Punchline's the Joker's new girlfriend in the comics. I'm leading into this a little bit.
Yeah.
And I started collecting comics back when I was at Bragg too. And I got back into DC. I don't do Marvel. That's just not my thing. It's not my style. I like DC's more grounded approach.
DC Marvel is very much like Star Wars, Star Trek. It's one or the other. You can't like both of them.
Yep. That's what I realized too after talking with comics with a bunch of people. But no, and the purple kind of stuck out with me. I had already had the red for like the smile kind of look, and then the white, which of course is synonymous. Purple and white was with the Joker.
Yep.
And I just kind of fell in love with that color scheme, and it's not for everybody.
No, that purple, white, and green, whether it's for you or not, you have to admit it works. Those three colors together work.
Yeah, they do. There has to be a certain balance with them. Is what I've realized. You use a little bit too much red, and then it throws the whole thing out of whack.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting too, because I think what's really neat, and Disney's even doing this now too, we're getting more of the backstory of the villains, and you're starting to understand them more and almost feel sorry for them. Like, well, they're not that bad. Cruella, that new movie was actually really good. We took the kids to see it, and it's like, okay, that's actually kind of, you start to root for the villain now, and it's kind of like, what's going on here? What are they doing to us? But with the Joker, I mean, they haven't made him a lovable fellow by any means in any of the movies, but there's still kind of a soft spot for him in the newer movies. Like, okay, we understand where he's coming from now. And
Yeah.
I think a lot of people building off of that is a lot of people are like, okay, we understand where he's coming from. And he's like a lot of people these days, he's just hurt and trying to find his way to express it. He's just doing it in a different way than the rest of us.
Yeah. Yeah. It's yeah, no, it's one of those things where, and I think if if you read, the sort of the book that's kind of become um the end all be all origin of the Joker, which is The Killing Joke,
Hmm.
it kind of puts things in perspective for you, along with the sequel. Well, I call it a sequel. I don't know if DC's calling it a sequel, but the sequel known as The Three Jokers, which
Hmm.
I have both of, and I'm a huge fan of the writing in those. Um, but it's one of those things where after you sit down and you read them, and you're kind of like, wow, okay, this guy's gone through a lot.
Hmm.
And it's just like he says, all it takes is one bad day,
Right.
just flip that switch in anybody.
Hmm. Well, I mean, this almost ties nicely into where I want to go with the conversation. You see it a lot with first responders and military. One bad day at work can change you forever. Um, we're recording days before the 20th anniversary of 9/11. That was a bad day. Um, it's a day that my dad, I've got the blog post pinned to the top of my blog right now. My dad responded to New York on 9/12. Um, it changed him. Uh, it's one bad day can ruin a lot of good men and women. So
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah. So you mentioned a little bit that you were in the army. I I always like to ask this of people. What motivated you to serve our country, and why did you choose the army over the other branches?
Um, well, I'll start with the easy one. Why did I choose the army over the other ones? I had too many tattoos at the time, and they're the only place that would take me. I had originally looked at the Marines.
Hmm.
Um, my dad was a Marine, and he smacked me upside the head when I was 16 years old. When I told him I was thinking about going to the Marine Corps, he said, "Nope, Army or Air Force." Um, my sister was in the Navy. My grandfather was in the Navy. My uncle went Army, and that's kind of, he's not my uncle anymore. He's since moved on with his life. I also can't speak right now either. I should say. Um, but no, it was one of those things where it was kind of like, okay, well, the Marines don't want me. I have too many tattoos for the Air Force. I'll just go to the Army because
Hmm.
I'm not going Navy. I'm not going Navy, and I'm not going Coast Guard.
It didn't want to spend your military career on a ship.
No, no, I did not. I wanted to, there was a lot of different factors that kind of went into why I had joined. One of the main ones was my girlfriend at the time. I hadn't spoken to her in probably about 4 or 5 days, and I was kind of like, well, I don't know what the deal is here, so I'm just going to go to the recruiter's office and just
Hmm.
see what's going on, because I didn't have my high school diploma. I was a high school dropout due to losing my dad at the age of 18.
Oof.
Um, and the I mean, it's just a culmination of a lot of different things. I was kind of like, you know what, I just need to get out of this town.
Yep.
Get out here and start my own way, or go see what else is out there.
Yep.
So I just kind of took the opportunity to get an education, a job set, and again, go see the world.
Yeah. So when you get into the army, what was that job set they assigned to you? Because everybody thinks, oh, I'm going to join the army, I'm going to be a ranger, I'm going to be a green beret, and I'm going to do this or that. And you get in, and they go, here's what you're going to do. What did they assign you to do?
So the Army is a little bit different than the Marines. That's usually like a Marine thing where they assign you your
Hmm.
job. It's a little bit different. You can kind of, based on your ASVAB scores, you can kind of pick and choose your job to a
Hmm.
certain extent. Um, Obviously, everybody has to go through basic training, so everybody gets the same, again, basic training. You know, it challenges you mentally, it challenges you physically. I would say more mentally for me specifically. Um, but looking back on it now, it's probably some of the most fun that I've had in my lifetime
Hmm.
was basic training. Um, but after that, I went into technical engineer. So I was a surveyor, drafter, designer. Um, doing the nuclear densometer. People that know construction know what I'm talking about.
Hmm. Yeah.
uh, and the concrete, running tests and stuff on that. It's pretty much, it transfers into the civilian world as like 5 to 10 different jobs.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that. I was working a contract at United Health Group doing marketing in their HR department, and we were working on a tool for veterans because they're coming back from service and trying to get in civilian world, and they're like, how does my skill set from the military translate over into the civilian sector? So like we had this tool on our website where it's like, what did you do? Here are skill sets over here that work. And it was interesting because we actually had a veteran kind of working on that committee. I forget what rank he was, but he was pretty high up when he was in the military. And he joked about knowing some guys that went in with their resume and they were putting their shooting scores and how well they are with hand grenades and everything. And he's like, no, we need to work with these folks to let them know how your skills, what you learned here, which are real world skills from the military, translate into, the office, the 9 to 5 job, so the office construction. It was interesting and hearing that side of it because there are a lot of soldiers who get out and they're like, I'm really great at throwing hand grenades. I'm really good at hitting something, a mile away, but you know, some don't really see how that translates. But it seems like you did, and great skills at the same time.
Yeah. So part of that was a lot to do with the transference from the military to the civilian sector, with working with the VA, going through
Hmm.
certain classes, um, just being kind of marketable skills
Yep.
classes, something of what you're getting at there. Um, and it was just knowing the verbiage and knowing how to change the nomenclature, flip it 180 degrees so that you're not a population control specialist. You're not a trained killer. You're a population control specialist. It's all about
Yes.
how you do it.
Yep, exactly. So you were in the military, let's not beat around the bush. You were in the military during not one but two wars. Um, I'm going to guess that because of that, you were sent overseas. Um, you
Nope,
know, oh, you
never
weren't.
had the opportunity. No, I never had the opportunity to, and it kills me each time. But feel free to ask away. I have friends that are knowledgeable on the basis. So
Yeah, no. Well, it's interesting. A lot of people are going to, listen who were never in the military and say, "What does he mean? I didn't have the opportunity, and it kills me." But I wasn't in the military, but I got a lot of friends and family who were, and I know exactly what you mean because it's your brothers and sisters were over there, and you want to be there to, have their back. You didn't get that opportunity, so you were in, but they didn't send you over. What did you wind up doing then? Uh,
um, So yeah, I had a couple opportunities. My first opportunity, my first sergeant told me, hey, I want you to be my driver.
mm-hmm.
Um, because we had I forget what the name of the exercise was. It's been hitting the head one too many times without proper protection.
Too many hockey pucks, right?
Yeah. But there was an exercise that we did, and I was, did really well at it. So he wanted, and I was, he's seen the way that I've driven, and he's like, I don't really have any spots for your MLS, but if I take you as a driver, it doesn't matter what your MLS is. You're my driver, and you're the guy that I want. Just sign this paperwork, and we'll get it done. Sign the paperwork right then and there, no questions asked, and they kicked it back. They have about, I think, 30 to 45 days or something like that to kick it back. They kicked it back within a week. And I think it was due to me PCSing, which is moving, essentially, for those not in the know, changing duty stations. So that was one time. And then the second time, I chose to go to Bragg instead of Fort Hood, or not Fort Hood. What is it? It's up there in New York. I'm drawing a blank. Gosh, I'm drawing a blank. Yep. Anyway, it's up there in New York. It's the 10th Mountain Division. Their base. I'm sure I'll think of it at some point. But and I chose not to go there. And this is another thing that kind of gets me too, is I switched with a buddy of mine to go to Bragg because they had just left for a deployment. And I was like, well, you know what? Hey, that's my best opportunity for a deployment, is to go there. And I went there and I tried to deploy, and they're like, nope, you're not going to deploy. You're stuck here. Oh, well, great. Cool. Awesome. So, but my buddy that went to New York, we lost him not too long after we got there. He went on, I think he went on, or he came back from a training exercise overseas, one of the two. And he's from Alabama. He went down there on his motorcycle. And then on his way back up to New York, he was in an accident and unfortunately passed away.
Oof.
So
sorry to hear that.
Yeah, it's tough, especially when you hear all the statistics of guys that are going on leave, they're coming back on leave. That's how they end up passing away, especially when they come from, or they're going to, wartime, especially when they come home. Then that happens. It kills everybody mentally, spiritually. It takes its toll.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're in the service for a while, and you get out. But you mentioned your dad as a Marine, and all the Marines I've met there's no former Marines. You're always a Marine, and it's interesting because everybody I talk to who's served, and I know people that have been in every branch except for the Space Force, and they won't say it the way a Marine does, but it's the same thing. You're just not active duty anymore. That's what it means. You're not in the military, which just means you're not active duty. Once a soldier, always a soldier, which makes the last couple of weeks very difficult on every veteran I know, whether they served in Afghanistan, Iraq, Vietnam, World War II. The past couple of weeks have been very hard, mentally, emotionally. And the hard part is not so much from the vets I've talked to, not so much how things went down, but the fact that they did. And it's like, what did our soldiers who we lost, what was it for then, if this is how we were going to do it? How have you been doing with that? And what advice do you have for us civilians for checking in on our veterans that we know to make sure they're okay?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty, I mean, I know for me specifically, like I said, I never went over there. And like I said, I know it hurts me that I wasn't able to go over there. I even looked into flights going straight to Kabul just to help those people out. And it was going to cost me around $1,000, and I was really tempted to drop that cash and just go over there because those people need help.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I know I've got my own, I've got my family here. I've got my, lots of, lots of, what's the word I'm looking for? Priorities.
Yep.
Uh,
You got your reasons not to.
yeah, exactly. And I have to, keep reminding myself, hey, you're not in anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Put things in perspective.
Yep.
But if I didn't have my family, I would, without a doubt, I wouldn't be here. I'd be over there doing
Yep.
everything that I could. But as far as the civilians and how they check in on the veterans and everything, just start a conversation with them. That's
Mm-hmm.
like the best thing. I wouldn't necessarily say, hey, how do you feel about what's going on? I can tell you right now, every veteran's gonna look at you like you're an idiot.
Yeah, they're pissed. We know how they feel. They're pissed.
Yep. Yep. So I would say, just kind of check in, just kind of look at them dead in the eye and say, how you doing? Are
Mm-hmm.
you doing okay? Just like I said, just start that conversation. There's I mean, I'm holding a lot back here, specifically because I'm thinking of your audience, and there may not be too many people that are how do I say this, that have little ears.
Yes.
So yeah, no, I'm when I first heard about what happened, I was beyond pissed off.
Mm-hmm.
I was irate. I wanted to do everything in my power to find somebody that was involved and strangle the life from them
Mm-hmm.
with their hands.
Yep.
And that's not a joke. I literally had that thought wash over me into my head. And it was just one of those things that I had to just kind of take a deep breath and just say, you know what, it is what it is. I'm allowed to be pissed off.
Yep.
I'm allowed
Absolutely.
to have feelings that I have towards what's going on, but committing violence is not okay.
That's what separates you from the Joker.
Yeah, no, yeah, believe you me, I had a fair amount of words with my boss, who's an SF veteran, at work, and he and I had, luckily enough, he's an outlet that
Mm-hmm.
I take full advantage of, and we kind of bounce these things off of each other. And I've been enlightened over the last, I would say, week about what may or may not be going on over there. I have to be careful with what I say because I do have a secret clearance and he is top secret confidential. So
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Well, one of my best friends, he's a retired Navy pilot. He flew C2s off carriers, and he flew. I'm fairly certain he flew special ops teams around because he's flown all over the Mideast. He talked about flying into Kabul, into Bagram, into some of these other places. My favorite story of his is I forget where they landed in Afghanistan, but they needed fuel, so he had a suitcase with $250,000 cash, and he went and paid for it. And they said, "Now, whatever you do, come back with a receipt." So he's
Yep.
walking over. They don't even open the suitcase. He's like, "I could have taken money out of there. Nobody would know." And he goes, "But I didn't because I'm an honest person." And he said, there's the language difference. And he's trying to tell him, "I need a receipt. It's just kind of sign a check." And says they pull out a blank piece of paper and put an X on it. And he's like, "Okay." So he brings it back to his commanding officer. He goes, "This is the receipt they gave me." He goes, "Okay, that'll work." And then they fueled up and flew out of there.
All right.
Yeah, yeah, it was kind of fun. My wife and I had I won't call it the opportunity, but almost the honor. They have this bonus room, and he's got all this amazing stuff, awards and swords he got from his time in the military. He even had an Afghan war blanket that was given to him by an Afghan soldier. But he didn't want it displayed, in the house so that when anybody comes over. But they had this bonus room, and so his wife wanted some of this stuff on the walls from. So we went over and kind of got that room together. And it was really neat to get this stuff that was important to him and display it so that him and his family could see it, but also hear the stories behind it. Because we'd pull something out of the box, and now it's going to be a half hour till we figure out where the heck it's going to go, because he's got to tell us the story. But it was just really neat to give him that opportunity to just kind of talk about it in a way that was comfortable for him.
Yeah, that's a big deal. What I like to do, I'd say maybe about once a month, or a little bit more often than that even, is just go to my local VFW hall, just sit down and just start a conversation with somebody.
Yeah.
Whether you're there to drink or not, just make it a point to make that person to person connection.
Yeah.
Especially with those guys that have gone overseas, and here, just let them tell their stories, because it not only helps you to kind of put the pieces together for what they've been through, and so you never know what other people have gone through,
Mm-hmm.
but it also lets them kind of have a therapeutic experience just by telling that story. It helps them relive it, but in a way that's safe for them.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and they're talking to somebody that understands it. My dad was a fireman for over 30 years. Almost 30 of them were in Chicago. And when he starts talking to another firefighter, they tell each other stories. Dad will tell me, because I went to the firehouse with them growing up every chance I got. So I've seen behind the curtain there, but there's stories he won't tell mom. There's stories he won't tell my sister, but there's stories he'll tell me when I start talking to him. There's stories he'll tell, one of their friends on the island where they live now, who's on the fire department, is like, there's a sense of, like you said, safety when there's somebody that's either seen or done the same stuff as you, that other people just aren't going to understand. Yeah, but getting back to the question, like you said, you can tell by looking at some of these folks that they're hurting, and all you have to do is ask them, how you doing? And even if they're not showing it because they have a poker face, still ask them, because they're all hurting right now. Every single one I know.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, that's exactly right. It's not just on the level of, I was there, I did my part. Again, I have to be careful with what I say here, but it's one of those things where the powers that be are not being held accountable
Right.
for what they say, for what they do, and those people that have been held accountable for the smallest little thing are pissed off because there's no accountability.
Well, you as soldiers, you guys took an oath and you fulfilled it to a T. Our elected officials took an oath and they didn't fulfill it.
Yep.
It's that simple.
Yeah, that's a simple way of putting it.
Yeah. So switching gears, I know you've listened to the podcast, so I know that you're probably fully prepared for my list of rapid fire questions. Because I'm looking at the clock, being mindful of time, and I know that these questions, while I call them rapid fire, don't necessarily go super quick because of the stories that come out of them. So, what's the craziest coaching moment from your playing days?
Craziest coaching moment. Oh God. Okay. Probably. Okay. So we were doing laps. We get done doing laps. Then we go. We start doing lines. The from red line to blue line to back to the red line to center red line. This, that, and the other. So we're doing this, and next thing you know, the coach's son just says, "Screw this," and just starts doing snow angels in the middle of the ring. No, he just screw this and just starts doing snow angels right there. And while everybody's doing laps, we're going, "That's what we're supposed to do." Literally, the entire team follows suit. No joke.
I like that. That's funny. So what did the coach do?
It just blew the whistle, and just, like all the coaches were just laughing. They're just like, "Oh, okay, this is yeah, okay, all right." And that was kind of like a prerequisite for what I learned in the military, which was, you know, if one of you screws up, you all screw up. But if you all screw up, you all screw up together. You can't be wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. So what age group was this? I mean, was it like squirts, peewees, or?
God, yeah, it had to have been squirts. Like it was, yeah, it was like one of my first years playing hockey.
Okay.
So yeah, it was really young.
See, it would have been better if it was like a high school college practice and that happened.
That's a Mighty Ducks moment right there.
Yeah, exactly. So, what is your favorite all-time goalie mask?
Oh God. Oh man. Yeah, for me personally, it's gonna have to be Potvin with the King.
I had a feeling it was going to be Potvin, but I like that it was the Kings.
Yeah. And recently, whose was it? Was it Vasilevsky or was it
Jake
with
Allen, I
Tampa
think.
Bay? Was it Allen?
Yeah, he's got kind of that Potvin-esque look
Yeah.
to it. Yep.
Oh man, I saw that and I instantly fell in love with it. I was like, oh, the palm trees as the wisp. Oh my God. I fell in love with that one. That's probably one of my favorite new ones
See,
for
it's
sure.
as a young goalie, I couldn't stand Potvin because he beat the Hawks in the playoffs. But as I've gotten older, I've grown an appreciation for him, where it's like I didn't like him when he played, but I really appreciate what he did on the ice, and he was still fun to watch. Same thing with Curtis Joseph. I hated him, absolutely hated him, because he beat the Hawks when he was with St. Louis. But kind of when he went to Edmonton, then I started to appreciate him. I mean, that playoff series of his, I mean, he was unreal. How could you not cheer for him? And then I read his book and it was like, okay, now I do kind of like you, but yeah. So, what is your favorite rink that you've ever played at and why?
Oh man, a favorite rink. You know what? I keep remembering and I keep thinking back to this rink. I don't remember the name of it, but it was in Omaha, Nebraska. And every time I think about that, I think of Slapshot too. And what the do they know about hockey in Omaha, Nebraska? Um, but no, it was. I think it was my first goal that I had ever scored when I was, obviously I was playing a winger. I wasn't goalie at the time.
Hmm.
Um, but it was just something about that rink. It was super small, nothing super drastic, nothing super crazy. Um, it was just a really nice, humble rink. And I just remember the road trip being going on there and playing Game Boy the whole way there and the whole way back from
Yeah.
Waterloo, Iowa, of all places where I was living at. So
Yeah. And I have to say, Omaha is an underrated small city to visit. I had to go there for work a few times, and it's like, this is kind of a cool little place. Easy to get around,
yep.
enough to do if you're down there for a weekend, but still feel like you did everything. It's a cool little city. Um, so, what's your favorite stick that you've ever used?
um, gosh, you know what? It's probably it was a coho. Um, I think the last one that I had finally snapped when I was playing roller and I transferred over to ice. I want to say it was a 5080 twig. I could be wrong on the series number though, but it was like a dark blue with the wood, the whole thing was wood,
Yep.
like core wood, and it was dark blue with the white coho letters, almost like a Potvin style actual
Yep.
coho with the wood shaft.
Y-
Um, I love that thing. That thing never let me down.
Yeah, we had those as an option in college, and when I first started, they were the blue and white, and then they switched to Montreal colors of the red paddle with white lettering and blue outline because those were our school colors. And all of the other goalies absolutely loved them, and I was the only one that was like, "We got Christians over there. I'll use those," which was great because at the end of the school year, I think at the time they were giving us 6 3 for $20, and the end of the school year, I went to get a few sticks for summer vacation, and there were like, I don't know, 6 left in the cabinet, and the coach that handled all the equipment, he's like, I'll take your $20, but just take all the Christians that are left. You're the only ones that use them. So I got like half dozen sticks for $20. I'm like, sweet. Yeah, but I remember those cohos. I used a few of them. Yeah, they were a good stick. They had a lot of give to them. They were kind of almost like soft. Is the best way to say it. Soft, but
Yeah.
still firm.
Yeah, they had a lot of whip in them, as I like to say.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's why I didn't like them, because I wasn't good at playing the puck, so the whip wasn't going to help me. So I just kind of like, a big log like a Christian, because like I just need this to get in the way. I'm not playing the puck. No need.
Oh, no, don't get me wrong. I'm still terrible at playing the puck. That's why I stick handle all the time, every chance I get.
See,
But
I'm the opposite. I just tell my teammates, you don't want me playing the puck, so I'm not going to. And they're like, okay, fair enough. They're like, I'm not very good at playing defense, and you don't want me to play it. I was like, that's where we differ. Yeah. So what
no,
is,
the nice thing.
go on.
I was gonna say the nice thing about the co-hosts, because of how whippy they are, they were really, really forgiving. If you tried to toe the puck or you heel the puck, it was kind of with all that whippiness, it just kind of evened out, and I got to cheat a little bit with them.
Yeah, absolutely. So what's your favorite youth hockey memory?
Oh man, youth hockey memory. Um, it's probably gonna be strapping on those pads for the first time. In all honesty, I was that kid that had them on the wrong legs the first time I put them on.
If if you played goalie as a squirt and didn't put them on the wrong legs, did you really play goalie as a squirt?
Oh, absolutely not.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Because I remember doing that, but that was because they were the old brown leather pads, and it was like it didn't matter which way you put those on, really.
Yeah, yeah. You didn't have to worry about the knee stack being on the outside of the knee.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, but but no, the first, I would say, probably the whole first year of me playing goalie. You know how we always rotate. Personnel who would play goalie. It was literally between me and this one other kid. Um, I think his name was Andy. I forget his last name though. But it was between me and him. And my season, I had, I think, a total of like 5 shutout pins for the whole year. And I
Mhm.
took severe pride in that. And I was like, I had 5 shutouts.
Yeah.
But I've had one in my adult life, so that should tell you something.
Yeah. I remember my first shutout was the day after Christmas as a squirt, my first year. And I still remember that. My aunt and uncle were in town and they came to the game. But in beer leagues, I think I've gotten 2 or 3, but one of my last ones were playing in the game, and end of the second period, I go to the bench, and one of my teammates is like, "Hey, you got a shutout going. Can you keep it going?" And everybody just looked at him like, "You." And I just looked at him and I said, "If puck goes in, it's your fault." Now I wound up
Yep.
getting the shutout, but it was funny. Like every time he was on the ice, he played defense like he'd never played before. He's like, I couldn't let it go. But it was just funny how he said it. It was like, the old movies where the record skips and everybody just stops and turns. Like, what did you just say? Yeah. So what's the best chirp you've heard on the ice, off the ice, directed at you, not directed at you? Best one you've heard?
Oh gosh, I think the best one I've heard was it kind of directed at me, but indirectly towards somebody that I've been somewhat friends with for the last few years, which was I'm playing like Trav 4. I wasn't really sure how to take that. I wasn't sure. But no, it's one of those things where I was kind of like, I don't know if I'm playing good or bad.
Well, and I'm also impressed that a non-goalie knew who he was.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, it was a younger kid, so I think he's probably more on the influencer side of things and how he knew him, probably YouTube or
Yep.
Instagram or like that. So,
Yeah, absolutely. So what is the worst post-game beer you've had?
oh God, Yingling easily.
Oh, you're not a fan of Yingling.
No, no, it was no. I tell you this, my first beer was Steel Reserve, so that should tell you something.
Yeah. That's interesting because, a lot of us Midwesterners, when we get the chance to go out east, are like, well, we got to try Yingling. And to me, that's it. I've only really had it on tap, so that helps. I think any beer is better on tap. But to me, it's a really good, cheap beer.
Yeah, it was. I think it was. It may have just been the fact that it was post game, so it was a
Mhm.
little salty.
Yeah, I can see that. The only time I've had it when I'm out, like I said, out east visiting my mom and dad. So it's not like I'm playing hockey at that point. It's just, and usually there may be a beer or two already in me by the time I get to the Yingling.
Yeah.
So
No, no. I think what was it? When I went to the Hendy Festival a couple of years back, I got in touch with you about good places to eat and good beers that were kind of local. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to try any of the local stuff.
yeah, well, right across the street from the rink is the Tipsy Steer and Invictus Brewing. They have both good food and good beer. Yeah,
Yep, that's where we went for post game / post tourney beverages. But no, they had great food.
yeah, their burgers are top notch.
Oh yeah, they're probably one of my top 5 burger joints for sure.
Same here.
Top 3 non-chain for sure.
Here's a fun one. When Chris Cherio still had Chili's Chili Bar in Chicago, we went there before a game, and that was great because that was back when like his whole family was working at the place. His dad was in the kitchen that day. His aunts were the servers, and you know that was one of the best cheeseburgers I ever had. Was at Chili's Chili Bar in Chicago. But Invictus is right up there.
Wow.
Every now and then I'll be out that way, around lunch or dinner time. It's like, you know what, we're going to stop in. We're going to get some food. So,
Oh yeah,
yeah,
without a doubt. Anytime I go there, that's where I'm going.
yep, yeah. I mean, there's other good places, but if you're looking for a burger, to me, that's the one to get.
And you can get your skates sharpened right up the road too.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, that's a great little area. I mean, that's where I skate my beer league out of is at the super rink.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I'm not too far from there. Uh, it's a nice little area, that's for sure.
Yeah, that whole sports complex is amazing. That place is huge.
Yeah, I mean the fact that there's 8 sheets of ice, I think it's something like 32 locker rooms when you factor in the different high school locker rooms, the USA locker room, the Bethel University locker rooms, and then you got I don't even know how many soccer fields they're up to now. It's probably close to 100. Then you have the
Yeah.
you have the baseball softball complex, then you have the golf course, then they have the stadium. They used to have the state track and field meet there, but they play soccer there a lot too. Now, then they have the indoor stuff for indoor soccer, basketball, all that good stuff. They used to have a velodrome for bicycling. It was one of 2 in the nation, but they just recently decommissioned that.
Wow.
Yeah, it's
Jeez, everything.
yeah, they do. It's quite the complex. It's a cool place, and they run a top notch beer league. I think there's, gosh, I forget how many divisions and team over 100 teams skate out of there, and some of the divisions
Wow.
get quite competitive. The team I skate on, we're in a lower level D league. I skate with them just because I like the group of guys. I could skate up. I have skated up, but I like the group of guys. So, and as a goalie, I prefer more shots than fewer shots. So it works. It's mutually beneficial. We'll put it that way. So when you tape your stick, do you go heel to toe or toe to heel?
You know what? Right before I hopped on here, I was going to ask you the exact same question.
Well, I'll answer first then. I have always gone heel to toe. And it was funny. I was having this conversation earlier this week with Bonesy. Part of it is back in the day when sticks were wood and, Christians were notorious for it, where they were like a sponge and they'd just soak in that water and they'd start to split. Well, you'd throw a little wood. Here's another thing. Did you have a Christian stick if you didn't put wood glue in it and put it in the vise overnight to repair it? And then you would tape not just from the heel, but from the paddle above the heel down
Yep.
to the toe. And that was just, you wanted to get a little extra tape there to hold that heel together before it finally broke and you had to get a new stick. And years later, I still tape my stick the same way. I still go slightly up the paddle. I've gone back and forth of going all the way to the toe and, kind of clipping it. Now I just leave, the slimmest of part of the blade at the toe. I do run a strip along the edge of the stick before I tape, though, just kind of an extra reinforcement. Again, because I'm in foam core sticks still. If I were using a composite, I probably wouldn't need to do that. When I was in high school, I did the Trevor Kid where I took that piece of tape and went all the way up the paddle on both sides of it because, in practice, that's where your stick would just get chewed up. So that tape actually served a purpose back then. But yeah, I'm still going heel to toe.
Yeah, the other thing I noticed too is about the kid tape job was, that tends to be the paddle would be back in the day. It would be where, you start getting fraying from going paddle down all the time too.
Yep, absolutely, yeah.
But no, for me, I've been experimenting with quite a different tape jobs here lately. But most of the time I do I'll do a little piece of tape on the bottom just because that's that old school that's still stuck in me.
Yep.
I'll use the regular 1 inch or 3/4 inch tape for that one. But then the rest of it, it'll either be 3/4 tape job or it'll be half.
Mm-hmm.
Travis kind of rubbed off on me, I guess, as far as that one. But I use the thick boy tape.
Okay.
So, but no, it's the thick stuff, so I don't have to use quite as much of it for the same coverage area.
Yeah. The thick stuff would be a little hard to make that turn on the heel. So I haven't gone that route yet.
Yeah. That's why I said the 3/4 to it or a half.
Yeah.
But I usually heel to toe. That's still stuck in me. Even when I skate out, it's heel to toe.
Yep. Same here. So what's your favorite number to wear and why?
So it used to be 32. For obvious reasons, Rudy, quick. It's such a goalie number to wear, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But in recent years, I've kind of changed it. I've gone to 28. Mostly because I was born in 88.
Mm-hmm.
My wife's favorite number is 88. But 88's always taken for some odd reason. I think there's a guy in Chicago. It goes by the name of Kane or something easy like that.
Pretty good player, I've heard.
Yeah, pretty good American player from what I've heard. Possibly best of all time.
Yeah.
But no, 88 has been taken quite a bit over the last few years, whatever team I'm on, whether it be Badger State Warriors, which is that group of veterans that play out of the Kenosha, Milwaukee area.
Mm-hmm.
And 22, that used to be my lucky number. That number's always taken too. So I was like, you know what? Screw it. I'll just take 28. Nobody ever wants 28 because everybody just thinks Ty Domi.
That'd be a good reason to take the number, though.
Oh yeah, for sure. That's I mean, it was one of those things where I was like, has there ever been a major goalie to wear 28? And the only thing I could really think of was like Hextall. but I was like, I don't think he wore 28. I think it was like 27 or something, wasn't it?
Yeah, Hexall was 27. That's because he liked to score goals.
Yeah, not a big deal.
Yeah.
He also liked to fight Potvin every once in a while too. That's what I heard. I don't know if there's videos on YouTube or anything.
Yeah, there might be one.
But no, 28 has kind of become, my new. I've kind of owned it. And my wife asked me one day, why are you wearing 28 now? I was like, well, 22 and 88 just mix my number with your number. It's 2 8s. 28.
Yep. Yeah.
So
it works. So last question, what advice do you have for young goaltenders?
Oh man. Honestly, after everything that I've been through, you know what? You need to take care of your mental health as much as your physical health. That's especially when it comes to goaltending. It's just like those of us that are in the know it's 90% mental.
Yeah.
And if your mental health isn't doing good, just like Leonard, he's a big advocate for mental health as well.
Yeah.
I remember I posted something not that long ago about having his back. And I'm just regular old Joe Blow. Not to be a pun here, but but I'm just a regular Joe, regular guy. I mean, I'm a veteran and everything. I'm lucky enough to have earned that title. But he's been a big advocate for mental health for the last 5, 6, 7 years.
Yeah.
And I posted something about it, and he liked it. He reached out to me and he was like, you know what, thank you. I appreciate it. And even something just as simple as that, as somebody with their own mental issues, such as myself, along with him, kind of reaching out to each other. It's kind of one of those things where it's like, you know what, you have to realize that you're not alone, but you also have to realize you have to depend on yourself to take care of yourself, because nobody else can take care of you for you.
No, absolutely not. And Robin Lehner, being as vocal as he has been, I think has been a hugely positive thing for young goaltenders, because they're learning it's okay to say I'm not okay. And I think that's been amazing. And to me, he should be one of the faces of the NHL strictly because of that. He's been great in that regard.
Absolutely, because it's not, and it doesn't just apply to goalies either. It applies to every athlete, every person in the world.
Yeah, everyday life.
So,
and I know Justin Goldman and his Lift the Mask project. They're big advocates of the same thing. Is we all have our mask that we're wearing. It's time we take it off and let people know, hey, maybe I do need help, or I'm here for you.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah. And that's, I think that now that you mentioned that and that kind of aspect, I did read a couple of their books. I have them here, but the embracing the grind and the other one, I haven't read all of them, unfortunately, not yet. But I think that whole putting the mask on kind of thing and probably had something to do with the Joker aspect as well.
Yeah.
Because out there on the ice, I can be as crazy as I want to be, as long as I'm stopping them. Who cares?
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. So where can people find you on social media if they want to follow you?
Yeah, they can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, at Lord of the Crease. And I am on YouTube. It's been probably over a year since I made a video, but I'm looking at getting back into that. I think my last video was how to repair a palm.
Don't ruin it.
Yeah, don't ruin
it. And I'll put that stuff in the show notes. And it's just because of the conversation we've had today, I'm going to put links, where folks can go to get help, especially for veterans as well, just so that they can find that info. But Ian, I appreciate you taking time out of your day. I know scheduling was kind of interesting for us, so we got it figured out. So thank you.
It's all good, man. I appreciate you having me.
Ian and I have been following each other on social media for some time now. I even wrote a behind the mask feature on him when I first started my blog. It was nice to actually talk with him face to face, even if it was a video chat. I hope you enjoyed the conversation as much as we both did. Also, if you are a veteran or know one who might need some help, be sure to check out the links in the show notes. You can find Ian on Instagram and Twitter at Lord of the Crease, all one word. You can find me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube simply by searching for Washed Up Goalie. Visit washupgoalie.com for some great hockey-related content, my beer league hockey video highlights, and of course, all podcast episodes. If you want some Wash Up Goalie or Tendy Talk apparel, be sure to visit the Threadless shop by clicking the merchandise link on my website. If you like this podcast, go listen to the BLPA Big Show. It's the OG BLPA Podcast Network show where a couple of beer league players talk beer league hockey, draft experience shenanigans, and exploits from around the game. Be sure to check out the full lineup of hockey-related podcasts on the Hockey Podcast Network as well. There are too many lists here, but shows like the Weekly Nightly Podcast, the Skates and Plates Podcast, and the House of Hockey Podcasts are all listed there. I need to thank the band The Zambonis for allowing me to use their music on my podcast. You can download their music on iTunes or listen wherever you stream your music from. I'm always working on lining up other goalies to talk to. If you are a goalie or have connections to a goalie who I should talk to, shoot me an email at washedupgoalie39@gmail.com or send me a DM on social media. Let's not forget, if you are a brand who wants to sponsor the show, be sure to reach out to me. I'd be happy to talk. And finally, if you like what you hear, be sure to subscribe, rate, and comment on the podcast platform you're listening on. It's a quick action on your part that helps others find Tendy Talk. So until next time, keep your stick on the ice and your body square to the puck.